San Francisco is burning. April 18th, 1906. Shortly after 5 in the morning, the ground beneath the city tears open. Walls bend, chimneys fall, glass shatters, people jump out of their beds, but an even greater horror comes after the earthquake. Fire begins to crawl through the streets, gas pipes break, flames burst out in different neighborhoods, water lines are damaged, and firefighters do not have enough water. Families run with documents, photographs, and anything that could prove that, only a few hours earlier, their past still existed. In the chaos that followed, many banks closed temporarily to assess the damage. But one man thought differently. If the money stayed locked away, San Francisco would die a second time. Not from the earthquake, not from the fire, but from the loss of trust. That man was Amadeo Peter Giannini. He was not born into a banking dynasty. He was not the son of an old American family. He was the son of Italian immigrants, born in San Jose, California in 1870. His parents came from Liguria, the coastal region, whose capital is Genoa, with few possessions and a strong will to work. Giannini understood poverty not as an idea, but as a memory, as fear, as the feeling that one bad day could erase years of work. When he was a child, his father was killed during a dispute over wages. It was a human tragedy born from poverty, anger, and desperation. His mother, Virginia, was left a widow with children. Later, she remarried, and young Amadeo began working in his stepfather's fruit and vegetable business. There, in the market, he learned something that many bankers did not know. Poor people are not all the same. Among them, there are honest people, frightened people, intelligent people, careless people, and talented people, just like among the rich. The difference is that poor people are often reduced to one word: risk. For the old banks, the worker was a risk. The immigrant was a risk. The small farmer was a risk. The person without large property was a risk. But Giannini saw a different risk. The greatest risk was not giving a chance to the people who could build the future. As a young man, he became a successful businessman. He understood goods, transport, farmers, customers, and trust. By the age of 31, he was already financially stable enough to live comfortably. But his life moved in a different direction when he came closer to the world of banking. There, he saw something that deeply disturbed him. Bankers did not merely control money. They decided who would be taken seriously and who would be left waiting, who would be called an entrepreneur, and who would be called an unreliable person with a small dream, who would receive a loan, and who would be punished for not having the right name, the right background, or the right accent. Giannini became a director at the Columbus Savings and Loan Society, an institution in the Italian neighborhood of San Francisco. But he quickly came into conflict with the other directors. He wanted the bank to lend money to workers, immigrants, and small business owners. They thought this was dangerous. For them, a bank had to protect the money of people they considered safe. He saw the world differently. In 1904, Giannini left and founded the Bank of Italy in San Francisco. This was not the National Bank of Italy. It was an American bank created for people who were often treated like foreigners in their own neighborhoods. It was a bank for the ordinary person, for the worker, for the farmer, for the small shopkeeper, for the immigrant who had no wealthy family behind him, but had work, an idea, and the will to repay his debt. His first office was simple, but that was exactly its strength. Giannini did not wait for clients to come to him with their heads down. He went looking for them. He spoke with them. He explained why money should not stay hidden under a mattress. He explained that saving could be protection. He explained that credit could be a tool, not a trap. The Bank of Italy began to grow. One satisfied customer brought another. One repaid loan became proof. But success also brought a question. Was Giannini helping the poor, or had he simply discovered a new market? Both were true. He truly believed in ordinary people. But he also understood that millions of ordinary people, taken together, were a huge economic force. Individually, many had limited resources, but inside a system, they could create capital that the old banks had failed to understand. Then came the morning that would define his legend. As San Francisco burned, Giannini first saved the bank's money and valuables. They were taken away by wagon so the fire would not destroy them. Then he did something unusual. He opened a temporary bank among the ruins, not behind marble, not inside a comfortable building, but in a city where people were covered with dust and fear. He accepted deposits. He gave loans. He spoke with people face to face. He understood that after a disaster, people did not need only sympathy. They needed a way to act. If you give people only food, they survive the day. If you give them trust, a tool, and a chance, they can build the future. After the earthquake, his reputation became enormous. The Bank of Italy was no longer just a bank that had survived, it was a bank that had acted when others had waited. And trust earned during a disaster is stronger than any advertisement. But Giannini did not stop there. He wanted to create a network of banks. At the beginning of the 20th century, many American banks were strongly local. If one area collapsed, the bank collapsed with it. Giannini saw branch banking as protection. If one city suffered, another could help. If one farming region had a bad season, other customers could help keep the system stable. In 1909, he began expanding across California by acquiring banks and turning them into branches of the Bank of Italy. By 1918, it had become one of the first statewide branch banking systems in the United States. It is one thing to give a loan to the person standing in front of you. It is another thing to build a system that can do that thousands of times. This was the moment when the small bank for ordinary people began to become an empire. In 1928, Giannini created Transamerica Corporation as a structure for his banking interests. In 1930, after expansion and consolidation, the Bank of Italy name gave way to Bank of America. The name was bold. The man who had started with immigrants and small shopkeepers was now placing his institution at the center of America's future. But the name also carried a claim of power. When a bank begins to sound like a whole country, it is no longer only a service. It is a symbol. Then came the Great Depression. Markets crashed, banks failed, factories closed. Fear became part of daily life. Giannini understood the psychology of panic. He knew that a bank did not hold only money. It held the nervous system of a community. In a crisis, a bank must choose. It can shrink and protect itself, or it can act and protect society by accepting risk. Giannini chose to act, and he did it through one of America's most famous symbols, the Golden Gate Bridge. In the early 1930s, the project seemed almost impossible. Construction was expensive, the economy was in crisis, and many investors did not want to take the risk. Then Bank of America, under Giannini's influence, played a crucial role in the bridge's bond financing when the project struggled to find backing. For Giannini, the Golden Gate Bridge was not only a bridge made of steel, it meant work for thousands of people. It meant a connection between communities. It was proof that California could think about the future even in its hardest times. Giannini also saw a future in Hollywood. To traditional lenders, movies looked uncertain. But he understood that images would have enormous value in the 20th century. Bank of America supported film projects, including Walt Disney's risky, full-length animated film Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. At the time, many people thought the project was madness. Some even called it Disney's folly. Production took longer than expected, costs grew, and the studio was under great pressure. But when the film was released in 1937, it became a sensation. Audiences were amazed, earnings were enormous, and the success of Snow White helped save the studio. It proved that full-length animation could be more than an experiment. It could become a whole new industry. Again, the same pattern appeared. To be entrepreneurial means to see the future where others see only risk. Not every person can do that. Giannini died on June 3, 1949. He left behind an institution that had begun as a bank for the ignored and became one of the most powerful banking institutions in the world. He proved that the son of immigrants could change history. He proved that a poor person is not only a risk. A poor person can also be a future that only a few people are able to see.